What's up, everybody? My name is Brian McLogan, and this is another version of Open Live Q&A, where I am here to go ahead and take your questions. It's been good to be back. It was good to actually take a little break from my live streams, and I was actually just recently at the YouTube Made on YouTube event, and it was really, really cool. We got a lot of the updates that are coming in. I think the live stream that they did on the event is available for you guys that want to kind of see what is coming out on YouTube. But it was also like a humbling experience for me to just kind of remember, why I started this channel and why I make content. And one of the things that it just reminded me of, and I felt bad. I felt bad for you guys because, my life got very busy. One of the reasons why I stepped away from the classroom was that is a loud notification. I stepped away from the classroom because, my life got very busy. We had our third child and it was difficult to manage, time with school, time with YouTube, and also being a father to my young children. My daughter is actually 8 today. Happy birthday, Juliana. And it was a lot to be able to manage all that. And the reality is, though, that's one thing I talked about with you guys is when you're going through your studies, there's a lot going on and you got to be able to shift through things, be more focused to be able to understand what is the most important and how you're going to be able to get things done. And for me, being most important was being a father. And a lot of times on these Sundays when I do these live streams, that's time with the family. And I would be tired dealing with my kids, even in the morning. Sometimes it felt like we already went through a day's worth of stuff before even 9 a.m. My girls wake up early. I wake up early. We're playing, we're doing things, having breakfast. And then I'd be like, oh, I was going to go live today. I'm just too exhausted, and then we're going to the park or doing something else. And yes, the reason why I'm actually doing this live stream now during my daughter's birthday is she is actually not here. She's supposed to arrive here pretty soon, but she went out with my wife to go ahead and pick out an outfit for her party later today. So I was like, you know what? I got to be able to identify time that is also important to my community, the people that show up, watch my videos, share my videos, and help them with the math. And that's why I wanted to make this live stream here, again, to remind myself what it is exactly that's so important about my channel for the people that watch it. And that is to be there with you guys, to be present for you, to be able to answer your questions. So I apologize for those of you that have maybe been on some streams or maybe been waiting for some streams and you're like, what happened to this guy? He used to go live every single Sunday. He used to answer my questions. He used to help me with my math and he just stopped. What happened? Well, I want to let you guys know I have made a decision that I need to be more present on my channel for you guys. And it was a nice break to kind of step away from those live streams that I was constantly doing every single weekend. But I also realized that I guess you could say as an authority of helping you guys with your math, I need to make sure I can step up. I need to make sure that I can plan my weekends ahead, that I can still show up for you guys because it is important to me. It is not just a YouTube channel where I'm posting videos and showing up. Like I get energy off of helping you guys with your math, about helping you with the questions that you guys ask each and every week. So I didn't really decide. I understood from that Made on YouTube event that I have a duty as the creator of this channel to make sure that you guys know that your voice is being heard and that I am here to help you out, because that's exactly why I created this channel, was to, not just be a place where people can learn math, but also to be like an inspiration that you guys can get through the struggles that you guys go through each and every year. And if I'm not here for you to stand behind you, to guide you, to motivate you, to answer those questions, I think I'm doing a disservice to all of you that show up on my channel day in and day out, watching all of my videos. So that's exactly why I don't want you to spam on the comment section, because I want to be able to allow students that have questions for them to be able to come through. And I wanted to get some math questions going on for today. I do have actually some updates for you guys that I want to make aware. And every single time I wanted to do them, everything got pushed out. And it just didn't become a main focus for me. So if you've been on those live streams, you're like, man, this guy said he was going to say something about this update or these new features that he was having. and then he just stopped doing a live stream. Like, what the heck is going on? Well, I'm not ready today because I just got I just got back from town from the Made on YouTube events, but I am going to have those. I am going to be getting back into the answering math questions because I am a dork. I do love math. But I also want to make sure, as I mentioned to you guys, that I'm here answering your questions. If it's a math question or if it's just related about math, I am here for you. I want to see you succeed. So if you have a question about math, then feel free to go. I'm sorry. If you have a question, anything, really just put it down in the chat. I'm going to do my best to get to as many questions as I can. My daughter did just walk in, so I do want to be cognizant a little bit of my time today, but I promise you, I will be making sure that I carve out some time, so therefore I can be with you guys to answer your questions. And then also, you guys can rely on me to be here for you because my channel is not just about tutorials. I know I have 12,000 of them online, but my channel is also about being able to support you guys and be the most successful version of yourself that you can be. So put those questions down in the chat. Be more than happy to be able to answer them. If you have a math question, you can go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A. And I will start working through some of those math questions, but I'm betting that by the time you guys get to, I guess I didn't confirm that person in the timeout. Yeah, we're going to do a longer timeout now. So let's please be cognizant of other people in this channel. And, but anyways, yeah, Greg, please don't spam, right? I mean, come on, guys, just don't spam. We don't need that. Okay. But anyways, I will, you can go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A, but I bet you will be excited for some of the things I'm about to tell you guys where you can get a little bit more quicker access to questions on your math. And it is with me. It's not anything I'm offloading or an app or anything like that. It is, or an app where you can like type in your questions, like all that stuff is available online already. This is going to be some access with me. So I'm very excited to let you guys know about that. Yes, I put the spammer in timeout, but I'm going to go back to the original chat for those of you that joined on, and I'm going to start answering some questions. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it down in the chat and I'll be happy to be able to see. So, hey, Fab Mystery, you were number 1 on the chat. So congrats to you and hello. Hope you're doing well. Nico Studios, good to have you on. And Aref, it's always good to see you on. Thank you so much for joining in on another live stream. I really appreciate your support. Thank you very much. And hey, Gabe, you are always on a lot of times too. So I'm hoping you're doing well in your studies. I know, I'm trying to remember like each of you guys that have been on. I know I forget what grade or whatever else you guys are in, but I hope you guys are doing well. All right. You are very welcome, Science Fair. Era says, how long did it take you to get used to speaking in front of a class? Was it pretty instantaneous or did you take a while? So it took a while. I would say that really once I got my feet under the ground as a teacher was probably around between year 3 and year 5. Obviously there'll be days where you feel comfortable and you feel like you got this thing. And then the next day will completely fall apart. And a lot of it just kind of deals with being able to work with your students and going through those ebbs and flows of the classroom. But I would say probably year 3 and year 5 is when I started to really feel the most comfortable every day, day in, day out. But I'll also say one of the most important classes that I took in college was public speaking, because at first I didn't know what my minor was going to be. At first I thought it was physics. And then I was like, that was way too much to be doing physics and math. So I was like, let me go and do communication, and communication had a public speaking. I'm like, well, if you're going to become a teacher, you got to learn how to talk in front of people. So I took that class and it was actually very, very good, because the reason being that class was very good was because, yeah, it was difficult sometimes, talking in front of people. And I never really, besides a couple presentations in high school, I wasn't very used to talking in front of people. So by taking that class, I did be able to get more used to talking in front of public and get more used to talking in front of people. And now I would say I still get the normal jitters just like everybody else. I am human. But as far as you put me in front of a classroom, I feel at home. I feel, completely, I wouldn't say normal, but I feel at ease. And I miss that feeling a little bit, actually a lot. But yeah, it takes a while. And I think anybody that's going to say instantaneously they know what they're doing might just be lying with you, or they're an anomaly. Why am I so low? That can be difficult. Yeah, there are cubic function that doesn't factor using grouping. Well, it all depends on there. There are some more advanced, techniques within there, but I'll have to go and see if I can create some videos for you on that. I think that's a good idea for some math videos, but not great for my live stream right now. Out of all the math classes that you've taught, which is your favorite? I would say pre-calculus. I taught it the most. And I think the reason why I liked pre-calculus the most out of all the classes is because a lot of students would come into pre-calculus thinking they were good at math, thinking they had a strong foundation. And a lot of times I would break that. And I don't mean to say that as something mean, but it allowed students to kind of go through this struggle that by the end of the year, those that stayed, they see like the Notre Dame, like those that stay will be champions. It's like so true for those students that went through the struggles, that went through the work in pre-calculus, that learned how to deal with upper level mathematics. They got A's at the end of the year. They had a stronger foundation of the math. And by the time they went to calculus, by the time they went to college, they're like, this stuff is easy. I can do this because I went through the struggles of your course in pre-calculus. Thank you. I'm going to make sure I show that to her. Hi, Ms. McLogan. Hope you're helping me so much. Well, I am so happy to be able to help you out. From Zambia, currently studying engineering at the University of Zambia. Your help, sir, is immensely important. Well, thank you so much. And that really, really means a lot to me because sometimes when you're doing this so much, you don't let those comments like that resonate with you. A lot of it is, you don't want to get kind of like, high on your own oxygen, like, oh, thank you. You're welcome. Like makes you feel so good that you don't want anything. But it's like, sometimes I don't sit back and just, realize how important it is for me to be able to show up, to be here for you guys and to continue making content that's going to help you out. And so I really, really appreciate that because it really, really does mean a lot to me that not only that my videos have been helped out, but also that you are showing up for live stream. I mean, you're even typing that in and sending that over to me. It does mean a lot. And I really thank you for that because it gives me that motivation to continue to wake up and work again on my channel, making it more useful for you and others. And look at all this spam. I don't know why I'm giving them anything. I can't say your name, but best of luck. All right, let's get through the spam. Greg, can you do a series on financial mathematics, portfolio analysis, financial modeling, regression analysis, etc.? Well, here's what I'll say, Greg. I like to focus on things that I've taught. And I was actually having this conversation with another math YouTuber. There's a lot of things that I wanted to branch off with when I stepped away from the classroom. I'm like, the world is my oyster, right? I mean, I can focus on even the BSc mathematics. Like I can start working through some of that content and start making more and more videos of that. And then two things kind of came in. One, it's a lot of work to go through stuff that you haven't done maybe ever before, like some of these financial courses, or stuff that you haven't done in a really, really long time, like stuff that I took back in when I was in college, almost 20 years ago. Not to say that completely everything is off the board, but I also want to focus on things where I have experience or the most experience teaching, because I feel like that's also where I can bring the most value. Like, yes, I can bring value reteaching some newer stuff or going through the content, but I also have a lot of experience teaching inside the classroom of Algebra 1, Algebra 2, pre-calculus, geometry, and calculus. Right now, I want to focus most on those because I feel like my experience is what is going to be the most value for my experience is going to be what is going to give the most value for my videos. Divisions of fractions. Well, what is it? Keep, change, flip. I hate that, but I have videos on dividing fractions if that helps you out. But yeah, just you're just gonna, easiest thing to do is to reciprocate the divisor and then use multiplication. A lot of spam, Please don't spam. Yeah, I can. Can you please explain the lesson quadratic inequalities? Can you please explain the lesson on quadratic inequalities? I have an exam tomorrow. Well, best of luck. And don't focus so much on something that you struggle with. If this is the one thing you struggle with, unless this is, when it's an exam, you're going to be dealing with multiple topics, right? So I'm going to give you some ideas to focus on here and, practice them, get rid of them. But also I don't want you just to focus solely on the one thing that you are struggling with. Get a good foundation of it, but make sure you're studying for everything on your exam. That's how you're going to, make sure that you can do the best on a general front for your exam. But anyways, for quadratic inequalities, you need to know how to graph a quadratic. If you don't know how to graph a quadratic, doing quadratic inequalities is going to be very, very difficult. Now, obviously, there are some things about quadratic inequalities that are going to be different with linear inequalities. But one of the main things, though, is just the graphing. Like, make sure you know how to graph in vertex form, using the intercepts, as well as, just using, even if you have to go with using the axis of symmetry and points. But in reality, once you know how to graph, it all just comes into the test point, right? And the most famous, most popular test point we ever used is 0, 0. Now, obviously, when 0, 0 lies on your graph, you don't want to use it. Maybe try 1, 1 or negative 1, 1. But the main thing is plug that point into your inequality. And if it's true, that's where you shade your everything towards that point. And if it's false, then you're going to shade everything on the outside of that. So I do have a couple tutorials, from in there. And I know there's plenty of tutorials online, but the main thing is making sure you know how to graph. Obviously, you need to know if it's going to be included or not included, dashed or a solid line, but the graphing of the inequality is going to be the most important, and then just understand how to use test points for your shading. As an engineer, how can I know where specifically I can apply the concept I have learned to please? I'm not really sure exactly what you mean from in there. And obviously, if you're taking engineering classes, a lot of the stuff that you're going to be learning is going to be much more applicable. So I don't know what you're learning. It could be some foundational stuff, or it could be some stuff that you could be directly being able to apply. I would just say continue going in with your studies. I mean, engineering is very math application based. So if it's not something directly applicable, you're going to see that it is a foundation to something else that's going to be directly applicable, and it might just come later in your engineering classes. How do you find the gradient of the graph? Well, depends on what you're given with the graph, but usually when you're given a graph, try to find 2 points, and then you're basically just identifying the change in the rise or the y coordinates of that point divided by the change in the x coordinates or the horizontal distance. And that is going to be one way to be able to identify the gradient from a graph. Same thing, setting up quadratic functions. The best thing you want to do is always make your quadratic set equal to 0. Then you have a lot of options. But once it's set equal to 0, you can look into factoring, you can look into completing the square, or you can look into using the quadratic formula. Pythagoras theorem, yes, I forgot. Well, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Just remember that. Theo, I want to say thank you. I want to say that your videos, not say thank you, have helped me through my pre-calculus lessons. Thank you, sir. You're very, very welcome, Theo. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Hey, James, good to see you on. Has anybody tried to learn computer science math like combinatorics or graph and diagrams? I don't know why I'm reading this comment. This looks like it's a comment for the chat. So hopefully somebody responds to you, and I will disregard that. I just clicked on it. I was like, yeah, let me go and click it because I haven't seen you in a while. So it's good to see you on. You are very welcome, Clutch Productions. What do you like to do in your free time? Great question. Let's get away from some of the math, huh? Well, a lot of my free time is also taken up with being with my kids. So I would say number one, spending time with my kids is mostly taken up. The next thing I would say is I do love to cook. I love cooking breakfast. I love cooking dinner. I am the cook in the household. So that is one thing that I actually really, really enjoy is doing all the cooking. And then also I also like renovating and fixing up properties. So not only my own house, but I have some rental properties that I continue to do that as well. So that is one thing I just enjoy. One thing I'm doing now is like laying some flooring and redoing the vanities, and we did painting. So all that kind of like handyman stuff I enjoy doing as well. And then also a lot of my free time, I like to work too. I love, getting into YouTube and, working on my channel and doing all stuff with that. So I don't have a ton of free time, but I always like to fill it up rather quickly. Pika Helmut McLogan, thank you for helping me review for my test tomorrow. Hope you have a good day. So I can give you, the best way I can look into the derivative, right? When you're looking into the derivative, you're looking into the integral, one way we can look at this is like the antiderivative, right? So a derivative is going to be the rate of change, or the change, at any instantaneous point. Well, you can think of the integral as like the antiderivative. And then also when you look at a curve, if you're looking at a point, right, you're looking for the change or that gradient at that point, and the integral is going to be represented by the area underneath the curve. That is just a quick little synopsis on there, but then obviously I would highly advise you to continue diving deep into with integration and with differentiation. And I think that will give you a better scope. And there's also some great YouTube tutorials or YouTube videos that really, 3 brown, 1 blue, go give you a much better visual representation rather than just here's some word, summary. Can I know math just by solving problems, or there's another way? Well, I guess it depends on what you mean by the definition of knowing math. I think, one app that is, very popular, which I've used, before, and I think is pretty good too, is like Brilliant. Like it teaches a lot of math concepts through like some games, right? And like kind of like some movements around some applications. I think you can get a good understanding of some mathematical concepts through that. But if your application is like knowing math is like knowing how to do particular problems, sometimes those, little games, or I'm trying to think of another word for it, not just games, but like, moving around like is not always going to be the best applicable. Sometimes it comes into like, doing the work or doing those problems. So I think there's definitely some portions of mathematical understandings that you can even learn on a video. You don't even have to be actually doing work, or you could actually, there are some simulations that you can do to understand some concepts. But I also think when you're looking into applying mathematical concepts or working through some problems, sometimes a paper and pencil and doing the problems is going to be the best application for that. Gabe, okay, you're in college. I gotcha. I hope my first year of college is going well, and a lot to work through. Yes, it is, but it's a lot of fun, and I hope I'm glad to hear you're doing well. Composition of functions and find the domain and range of the composed function. I'm in year 1 university. I'm struggling of the domain and range part of the composed function. Yeah, it can be difficult. So the main thing that I want you to focus on is making sure you understand how to find the domain and range of the functions separately. And just remember, when you're composing a function, you need to understand there's kind of 2 restrictions. One, whatever function you're plugging into the other function, that domain is going to stay with the composition. So if it is like a rational function or a radical, like the domain restriction of that function is going to remain constant. No matter what happens on the simplifying, that remains constant. Then, so always make sure you find the domain of that function. And then you're going to once you plug it in and you simplify, do anything else, then you also need to make sure that you understand the domain of that simplified version and see if there's any other restrictions for there. Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thanks for answering, Mr. McLogan. For my school, it's usually people coming out of geometry thinking that they're good at math until they take algebra 2. But thanks for info. I'm taking pre-calc. Well, awesome. Yeah. And again, sometimes it could be the teacher. Sometimes it could be the course, right? And every school is going to be a little bit different, based on their instructors and based on, the trajectory of the students. But yeah, for my course, or at least in our school, pre-calculus was that kind of breaking ground where students, it was really where they got tested on the most. Like, what do you mean teach more about graphs? I have a lot of graphs, but yes, I can add some more stuff on integrals. A irrational number is simply a number that cannot be written as a rational number with a numerator over a denominator. I'm about to start my degree in physics and math tomorrow at university. Well, awesome. I'm so happy for you. That is so cool. Congrats. Because of watching your videos, I decided to do another year before graduating so I can get extra credits and not cram algebra 2. I think that's good. Don't worry about it. You're not in a race or a competition against anybody. So you want to make sure you're going through this as slowly or as fast as you need to go. So make sure you're understanding the information. Make sure you're feeling confident and not overwhelmed. So many people want to rush through courses because they're, seeing what other students are doing, and then they get overwhelmed or they don't learn the necessary knowledge that they need to. So make sure that you focus on yourself and not compare yourself to anybody else. Oh, there's a formula for that, and I don't recall exactly off the top of my head. Sorry. I'm taking general chemistry and general physics. Do you have any tips? I mean, I haven't taken chemistry and physics in a long time. I think that the main thing is, you know, taking notes or making sure that you are doing work before the class to get yourself prepped, especially in those classes. I would say there's a little bit more maybe note taking than I would maybe say maybe in the mathematics. So doing a little prep work before the class could be beneficial, but also when you start to like struggle or you start to have questions, like get those questions answered immediately. Also, when you have homework or you have stuff to do, like do stuff every single day. That was one of the most important things that helped me out when I was taking my math classes was doing math every single day. So it's not anything groundbreaking, but hopefully some of those little tips can help you out. Well, I don't fully understand math. I struggled with math when I was growing up, and I did work hard and earn my degree. But then I still struggled with math as I, you know, like even when I'm learning something new, like math does not come easy to me. So if you're asking to fully understand math, I think there's two things you can do. One is put in the work. You got to do practice problems. You can't just like assume like, oh, I can watch my teacher do one problem. I understand it. And guess what would happen to me? I would go home and completely forget it. And I'd be like, how I wrote down the notes and I wouldn't even remember it. So you got to practice. You got to put in the work. So put in the work, do a lot of practice problems, sometimes even more than your teacher might ask. I did that. A lot of times we'd have our homework. I would even go to the back of the book and I would do extra math problems. Now you guys have online worksheets and everything, tons of resources online. Go and do some extra work or even watch a video and like stop it and try to do it on your own. Then watch the answer, right? So put into the work. And then also I think it's always helpful. Like when you can explain something to somebody else, that forces you to have that deeper understanding of the content, right? So, I mean, that's why you think of like teachers of being like so knowledgeable. Well, when they have to explain something, they have to make sure of whatever little things that they don't maybe fully understand on their own by themselves. They have to make sure they understand that. So therefore they can explain it to other people. And sometimes they don't know what they don't understand until a student asks a question in class, right? That happened all the time for me. And I can tell you throughout my years of teaching, every single year, I was always learning a different perspective. I was always learning something else that I'm like, oh, I understand this actually even a little bit better now. And I might have been teaching something for 10 years. So maybe find an opportunity, maybe to tutor somebody, to help somebody out that you can teach general concepts. And even if it's not in the same course, maybe it's like last year's course or, 5 years ago, but that by teaching somebody else or having to explain what you are learning really helps solidify your understanding. I have been a teacher inside the classroom since 2007, and then a teacher on YouTube since 2010. Not at the moment, but if you have a question, you can go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A. Unfortunately, I do not teach in the classroom. I stepped away 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I guess, going on now. So now I just focus fully on YouTube. Best of luck, study. You got this. Hi, Ms. McLogan. Your videos have helped me since the day I started just 4 months ago learning the GCE. Could you also consider making videos about applied mathematics, if possible? I answered this question a little bit earlier. It does become a little bit difficult dealing with stuff that I haven't taught before, but I'm not going to leave it totally off the blank. I do feel like I owe it to you guys to also put in some work on some other concepts. So that's what I want to do for you. Any good tips on solving equations with Gaussian elimination? I love Gaussian elimination. I think it does give you that good foundational stuff. Obviously, once you've learned Gaussian elimination and then you get into matrices, you're like, I'm never going to use Gaussian elimination ever again. So I would just study the basics that you need to pass whatever quiz or test that you need. But there's a lot more updated and quicker ways to be able to solve larger systems of equations than Gaussian elimination. So learn the basics, but I wouldn't dwell too much on it. Could you recommend the way to study math? Yes, a couple different ways. Study is going to be doing by practicing problems, right? Practicing problems that you know how to do or that you got wrong, going back through your quiz, your homeworks, your tests, redoing, fixing your mistakes, going through them over and over. Sometimes that might be covering up the answer. So therefore you can see, then for trying it and then see if you got it right and doing this stuff over and over. Mathematics is about repetition. So I would highly recommend doing problems that you have either done before, got right, or got wrong. I also think you need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to do problems that you've never seen before, problems that are going to challenge you. If you've ever had to take a test and you're like, where did this come from? The teacher never taught us this, right? That comes from getting out of that comfort zone, trying to get to problems that are going to challenge you, right? If you're just always doing problems that you know how to do or that you already done, you're not building those muscles to be able to expand outside of that, right? So try to look for those more difficult problems. Sometimes they're in the back of the book. Sometimes you can find them online, but find some problems that are on the same concepts that are going to be challenging you. That is another way to grow. And then also I think as far as your notes, you take all these notes throughout a whole year or a chapter, condense them down to a cheat sheet. So therefore you can quickly review that kind of stuff. And it's not like flipping through 20 or 30 different pages to try to remember things. You create a cheat sheet that condenses things. And that helps you also, I think, organize all the stuff in your brain. Hi, Mr. McLogan. I'm taking honors pre-calc this year, and I didn't realize how rusty I was with algebra 2. I don't know how I did on my first unit test, and I just want to know how I can study effectively. Well, it's a very common thing. A lot of students feel like they had a good foundation of algebra 2, and then they get in the pre-calculus, and they're like, oh crap, I don't remember this stuff as well as I thought I did. And the same thing happens in calculus. One of the biggest roadblocks for students in calculus is not actually the calculus, it's the algebra for the calculus. So, I think you're on the right, page. You're understanding where some of your weaknesses is. I would just recommend that when you start seeing some algebraic concepts that are coming into your pre-calculus course, just make sure maybe go back into algebra 2, or maybe even before, when you have some extra time and you're done with your, pre-calculus work, look at some of those concepts. Maybe it might be like simplifying rational expressions or factoring, and just do a little bit of extra practice on there. Make sure you get that good foundation, because the unfortunate thing for you is that algebra is not going to go away. It is going to continue to be that nemesis for you if you don't identify a way to be able to fix some of those like weaknesses. So identify what it is in the algebra that you've already learned that you're maybe not as strong as anymore, or that you forgot, and put in a little bit extra work on that. And I think you're going to be all right. I have a test on factoring quadratics and polynomials, binomial, complex trinomials, etc. tomorrow. Any tips? Just practice as many problems that you've done, possibly, on your homework or your test or on your quizzes. And I would just, everything your teacher has kind of presented to you, just try to do as many example problems, right? Just go through it. And then I wish you best of luck. I don't know if there is a point. Maybe I'm speaking correctly, but I didn't pause and think about this question, but I'm okay with not knowing all the decimal places of pi. I don't know. I'm at peace with it. Is there something you wish you had done differently or regretted during school? Thank you for getting deep on here. You know what? I live my life with no regrets. And I understand there's always things that you're like, yeah, maybe I wish I would have done this, or maybe I, could have done that. But in reality, I always look at my life as like, it's a byproduct of the decisions you make. And I love where I am at my point in my life. And I realize that if I would have made maybe a different decision, or if I would have tried something else, my life would not be what it is today. And not to say that there's nothing that I wish I wouldn't have maybe tried or maybe have done. But there's no big regrets where I feel like the trajectory of my life went a different way that I didn't want it to be. I always feel like I want to be the best version of myself. And I always want to put in my work, I always want to put in my best effort. And that's what I strive for. And you're not always going to meet it, but I'm not going to say that at times when I don't meet it, or when times that I don't fulfill it, that it is a regretful on my end. It's just an opportunity for me to look back and say, all right, we didn't accomplish something that you wanted to accomplish, or you didn't put in the necessary effort or work that you needed to. Let's go ahead and do it again. And that's the way I look at life. Sir, any tips for inverse functions? Love from the Philippines. Yeah, I mean, the problem with inverse functions is you can understand how to do it for a linear equation, but then once you throw in radicals or rational or more complex functions, it gets confusing. So make sure you understand the basic fundamentals of it, and then try many different variations of it. So therefore, when it comes to a test or a quiz, you're not going to be thrown off, right? You're gonna be like, I've already done a problem like this. I know what to do. Because there are variations that look very similar. It's the same process, but can be vastly different in its difficulty. I'm trying to learn calculus, but it's a bit jump from quadratic equations. Any suggestions? Well, I'm not sure how you're going from quadratic equations to calculus, but I think, again, the same thing I mentioned before is that students struggle with calculus, not so much for the calculus concepts, it's for the algebra. And that may be different for you based on this comment. I'm not fully sure, but make sure you feel like you have a good, strong foundation of algebraic concepts before getting into calculus. And maybe you might be a little over your head, and maybe you might need to take a step away to really focus on those algebraic concepts. And if that's not a possibility or that's not an option, then like I mentioned before to a student about pre-calculus, like set aside some time to practice factoring quadratics. Like I remember teaching calculus, and there'd be students that didn't even remember how to like factor a quadratic trinomial. Like they were struggling. They understood the general idea of what I was teaching, but like they couldn't factor, they forgot. So it's like, you need to put in a little bit extra work because not everybody is maybe as weak with quadratic equations. So I'm going to assume that you guys have that foundation and we can move on with our lessons because, especially with AP calculus, like pacing is very, very important. So I need to make sure that I am working through the curriculum at a pace that we can get you ready for your final exam. So sometimes that effort is going to fall on the student to put in the necessary work to make sure they have a strong foundation for the calculus we're going to be going through. Hello, Ms. McLogan. I have trouble approaching problems, calculus, in the right way. I just always try to approach, I think, but mostly 3 or 4 will be wrong. I just don't get it, the answer. So this kind of comes, unfortunately, this answer is not going to be one you're going to want to hear, but I think this comes with some experience. This comes with some practice. And in reality, I'm not just saying like the more you do a math, the more you kind of get it, but like the kind of as you go through the year, and what I've noticed is like, you understand how your textbook or how your teacher is going to present problems. And you get a little bit of what we call like familiarity with what to expect on the problems. So I really do think you probably just need some practice. You need to identify where you went wrong. And I think it's really, really important for you to dive deep in why you got those problems wrong. What was it you were thinking? And what was the correct way to think about the problem or how to approach the problem? If you can diagnose where you're diverging from what the correct answer is and understand that and continue practicing and going over those problems and spiral review. Just don't do it once and forget about it. Consistently be going back over those problems that you didn't get right and going over, your understanding and fixing it. Then I think as the year goes on, the year progresses, you're going to get better and better. It's not going to be a light switch where all of a sudden, oh, now I understand. Like now I'm going to get everything right. It takes a while and it might take you the whole year. That's okay. You're learning. I love it. Keep on putting in the work. Oh, thanks, Hayan. Thank you. Can you explain how not to get confused when using the cosine law? Well, first you need to make sure you're using the cosine law correctly, right? You're going to have, now I don't even remember, side, angle, side, and then angle, angle, side. No, side, angle. No, not side, angle, side. Angle, side, angle? No. Yes. Angle, side, angle, I believe. I'd have to go back. Man, why are you putting me on the spot? But anyways, I think there's only a couple of the oblique triangles that you can use the law of cosines. So make sure you're doing that correctly. And then obviously sometimes typing that into your calculator, like knowing, I always like to draw the triangle the exact same way. So even if I had a triangle from a textbook or on a test, I always redraw it the way that I like to visualize it, with A being in left-hand corner going, A, B, C. I just like visualizing that rather than like swapping out the formula for like what I have on my question. I just rewrite it so it looks all the same. And then I go from there. But also it's very, very important when you're typing things in your calculator to use parentheses, to go slowly, maybe do it in parts. But once you get some practice with it, you realize it's fairly basic. Sometimes it can be a little bit more work, but it's fairly basic in that regard. So get some practice on it. Make sure you just, are not getting confused with the formula and the triangle. In my opinion, that's where just a lot of students go wrong. And then they do the whole formula and everything's wrong because they started off with wrong information. If you have a math question, you can go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A and I can provide you a little bit more specific advice. But the easiest thing I can tell you is more likely than not, if you have unlike denominators, if they can't be simplified, then just multiply the two denominators by each other. That's going to provide you with a common factor, and just make sure you multiply the numerator and the denominator of that by that same expression. And then it just comes into, combining your fractions. That is a very simplistic way of describing things. That's probably not going to be very helpful since I'm not actually teaching something. But if you want to look at my channel, I have a lot of videos of how to add and subtract rational expressions with unlike denominators. And I think just watching multiple different examples, you'll get a better idea of what I was just trying to say. I shouldn't have even tried to answer that because I don't want to overly confuse anybody. Started college after 5 years, and I don't remember much, but I really don't want to drop out of my algebra class. What do you recommend? Well, I think the best thing would be speaking to your professor, and letting them know, like, hey, it's been a while since I, took math. I have some things I forgot. Do you have any resources specifically for this course that you think would be beneficial to me? And I think just getting that information, that will help you with a timeline or a guide of what you need to focus on, because I'm not sure what course you're taking. Or your algebra course, or what the topics are. And then also, go to the study lab, go to the resources that your college, university provide, and just put in that extra work. It's going to be a lot. I had to do it too, right? There's a lot of things that I forgot before I took college algebra, and a lot of things. And I thought I knew them, but I didn't know them. So I went to the tutor lab every single day, and I asked the questions to make sure I understood the information. And that's what propelled me to have a foundation to earn my degree. So I know that you can do it because I did it. You're very welcome. Okay. Help for max exam in 10 days. It's a lot of work. Just put in the work. Do a lot of practice problems, review all of your notes, study, redo problems in your test, your quizzes, your homework, create a cheat sheet from all of your notes and review it. But I would spend a couple of hours every single day going over stuff, and just don't, focus on doing things like every single day, but like constantly be reviewing stuff from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, every single day. Maybe do 2 or 3 sessions, maybe 2 or 1, maybe 3 might be a little lot, but like 2 sessions each and every day, morning, afternoon, or evening. All right, I need to wrap up. Hello, Brian. I got an extreme and end behavior quiz tomorrow, and I need help. Do you have a video on your channel that could help me? I believe so. Just typing that stuff in there, or go and look at my calculus playlist, and I should have a lot of stuff on like or calculus or pre-calculus, and you'll see a lot of stuff that I have on there regarding that. How do you gain motivation to study math even when you felt like the world is pressuring you to and doubting you lately? I've been struggling lately. How do you gain motivation to study math even when you felt like the world is pressuring you and doubting you? I've been struggling lately. So, I think it comes into having that self-talk with yourself of not worrying what the world or what anybody says to you and those thoughts. And it's not easy. We all have some self-doubt, right? We all have those words that come into our brain of like, why doing this? You're not capable of this. You're not good enough, right? We're all human. It's all normal. So I think you need to take time, take a walk, spend some time and reframe those thoughts and understand it as why you're doing what you're doing. What is it that you ultimately want to achieve? And what work do you need to do to get that achievement? And I think if you can understand the why of what you're really trying to achieve and what you need to do, it helps you kind of focus on what you need to do and ignore those outside thoughts. So hopefully that's helpful for you. Not anything specifically. Hey, what's going on? I'm taking honors pre-calculus here. Oh yeah, I already answered that question. Cool. Sir, why do we take the unit circle for finding trigonometric function? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, but the unit circle is the easiest way to be able to evaluate your trigonometric expressions. Obviously, it doesn't work for every single angle because there's only so many angles on the unit circle, but it helps. It's a very simplistic way for us to get a lot of values really quickly. No, I don't have that. Let's see what else you guys got. Yes, I do have it. I have many videos. Just search on my channel, inverse of functions, and you'll see a lot of examples. Can I or any person learn abstract algebra and calculus by self-studying with basic knowledge of mathematics? That's a very dependent question. I took abstract algebra and calculus all inside the classroom. It was a struggle for me, so it was very helpful for me to have a professor. But I think that's all dependent on who you are and of a person. And so a lot of people can do self-studying. A lot of people can watch videos and understand stuff. Some people can just read books and understand it. It's really dependent on you. So I would maybe give it a shot, or maybe speak with your professor, your parents, and kind of see what would be the best route for you. Maybe, I mean, I have some discrete math questions on my channel, but I will be coming up with some ways for you guys to submit questions as well. You're very welcome, Joyful. Is there a major difference between honors pre-calculus and AP pre-calculus? Yeah, the topics are a little bit different. I'm not sure if honors has taken all or has accepted everything that is on AP. But I would say like the major difference for me is like, I've never taught AP pre-calculus. I did look at the syllabus, but you know, there's an exam at the end to get your credit. So pacing is going to be very rigid for you going through that course. Whereas honors, which is what I taught, you can be a little bit more flexible. I can move around topics. I would switch around topics, maybe add or subtract topics, you know? And so I think with a little bit more flexibility that you're going to have compared to an AP, which is going to be much more rigid and maybe faster paced depending on the student. There's a lot in grade 12, so I'm not sure if I could give you a good response for that. How do you graph? That's going to be your f negative absolute value of x. That's going to be a reflection about the x-axis. X plus 3, that's going to be shifting 3 units to the left. Explain the transformation and W-shape formation using calculus. Well, I'm not sure the W shape. Not sure where that's getting. And using calculus, you're going to want to convert your absolute value of x into a piecewise function. That will help you understand where that graph comes from. Hello, how are you? I am doing great. I am from India and I'm preparing for my IIT, but can't focus my goal and I'm distracted from social media. Well, turn off your phone and turn off your computer. Get off this live stream and start doing some math. That's the simplest answer I can give to you, because in reality, social media and your phone is just it's crack cocaine. It's there to distract you. And there's no better way to get rid of it than to simply get it out of your face and put in the work. I am sorry. I thought I could live with my stuff too, but I get distracted very easily. And those things are designed to distract you. So get away from them and focus on your studies. I hope you're doing well. How did you gain interest in math? I find it hard to gain interest. You know, I didn't gain interest till I was in college. I mean, I was always kind of like a little bit interested in math, but it was like the more I understood math, the more I started to see it and understand how it was related with everything. That's where I really started to fall in love with it. So a lot of the math that we learn is very basic, rudimentary, and fundamental, and a lot of times boring, right? And we don't see the purpose of it. We don't see the reasoning behind it. And it's just, we feel like sometimes it can be a waste of time. And I get it, right? But I think if you can continue putting in some of the work, continue learning and trying to understand how this stuff comes together, you'll start to maybe gain a deeper and better understanding of the math and maybe appreciation of it as well. Anything I need to know about pre-calculus, like future stuff other than trigonometry? Yeah, I mean, a lot of algebra, polynomials, rational expressions. I think those are some good functions. I think those are some good foundational stuff that we learn in algebra 2. That's going to be very, very important and helpful for you in pre-calculus. Yeah, matrices. All right, guys, I have to go. Thank you so much for joining on, and I look forward to seeing you guys next weekend. Cheers.